Well, welcome out there to my program once again. Always a pleasure for me to be here, and I hope it is for you out there who watch the show and comment about the show. This is the panel show. The panel show, as you know, is I have people come on and we discuss basically city issues, sometimes state issues, and occasionally international things. Tonight we're going to talk about pretty much what took place at the City Council meeting last night. A lot of discussion last night about the city budget and the school budget. Now, if you watch the school committee meeting the night before, you will get a taste of what's going on. Now, we have a school committee in Fall River, and we have a city council. Then we have the so-called administration. What's amazing, though, if you sit there and watch these programs, or if you go to the school committee and you're sitting there, you know, watching it live, and also the city council, you wonder who knows what's going on sometimes. They have all these people. We have an auditor, makes very good money, the city of Fall River, in Government Center. A treasurer makes good money. I have a city administrator, and of course you have the, you have the head of the Public Works Department, as I call it. He doesn't get involved too much with the actual finances. And then, of course, you have the mayor, who you never see, but that's his people down there. And I'm going to put this to you. You know, when you watch the program, you have to realize that these people are full-time. They work every single day. The treasurer works every single day. The auditor works every single day. And they're supposed to tell the city council what the finances of the city are in relation to anything, any project, any budget, whether we're going to have 153 firefighters, we're going to have 175, whether the healthcare money is in the account that it's supposed to be in. Well, nobody seems to know. And my panelists, CJ, who was made a debut again at the city council meeting.
I don't know, but I'll get back to you on that.
Along with Bob. Bob, you were there. You made a nice presentation. You put the council on notice as to what you think they should be in. And Dan, you were there too.
Absolutely.
And I saw it at the school committee meeting. So here we are, and it's a few days or a day later after these meetings. Bob, what do you get? What's your impression as to why it takes so long, or why it is that when a presentation is made, they don't come before the people who they're making the presentation to, whether the school committee or city council, with the information that is needed in front of them, or they have it in their head?
Well, I think it's basically plausible deniability. I believe that they don't want to tell the facts. If you listen to 3 presentations, you get 3 different sets of numbers. They never seem to know where anything is, and when they do, it changes by the next meeting. The fact is that we've known for a long time that the funds didn't match in the healthcare. You know, regardless of what you ask this team, there seems to be no answers, because I think they are really afraid to divulge the true financial condition of the city.
Now, I noticed the last couple of meetings or so, we have the auditor, CJ. He doesn't seem to ever get a question addressed to him. I don't understand why that is. The council complains quite often that the finances of the city are in a vague condition. Nobody knows where the money is, but yet the auditor is not asked to make a presentation, say, this is what we have, these are the accounts, this is the money we have in these accounts. Why do you think that's so? Why does the auditor seem to...
I think because the answer they always get from parts of the finance team is, I don't know. I'll have to get that back. I'll have to look into it and get that back to you. And nothing ever comes back. So if you're going to get that from the man who controls the money, and the auditor is the guy who's supposed to look over the money, well, if this guy doesn't know, why would this guy know? And the very few times that Mr. Gupta has made presentations, they've been sparse. They haven't been as thorough as they wanted. And when you look at yesterday's presentation by the finance committee was by the finance people was unbelievable, because Ray Mitchell, during citizens input time, put the city treasurer on notice that I don't want to hear, I don't know, I'll have to get back in touch with you. And then during the presentation yesterday,
We heard that phrase?
and there was that magic phrase again.
Well, you know, Ray Mitchell, he seems to be very interested in what's going on in the city as far as its finances. He's one of the city councilors that asks some very poignant questions. And he mentioned that the city needs a complete audit of its accounts.
Hey, well,
No.
Bob and I have been calling for audits for 15
what
years.
I'm getting at is, we have an auditor. What is he supposed to do?
But, you know, Richard, the bottom line, and Bob can chime in anytime but we've been calling for an audit, the likes of which this city has never seen. By law, the city conducts a checkbook audit, basically, at the end of every year. For years, it was Hagen Sahadi, the auditing firm that conducted those audits. Recently, another firm, although I don't know who it is, but it's no longer Hagen Sahadi. But we need an outside independent audit, a forensic audit, basically a zero-based accountability of all finances and all accounts, policies, procedures, forensics, everything. And that's going to take, to quote J.Z. Correa in the wrong fashion, that's going to take an investment which this city will not make. They will make investments for other things. And look, it's not only this mayor that doesn't want it. We've been calling, as I said, for this type of audit for 15 years. No mayor wants it.
Now, we got the report last night. This came from the head of the DPW, whatever they call it nowadays.
Department of Community Maintenance.
And he said that when he was asked about the treasurer's office, because there was, I guess, a question whether work should have already begun in the treasurer's office. The quote for the work at the treasurer's office was $250,000. We know it as $250,000. When we were growing up, $250,000 was, nobody had money like that. I mean, if you had $250,000, I mean, you didn't live in Fall River. You lived somewhere, you know, in Beverly Hills. $250,000. Now, if you were to buy you had a piece of land and you built a house for $250,000, let me ask you, Bob, do you think in that house you'd want for anything?
No, well, I think that that's one of the problems we have in this city. We have numbers that they're surreal. I mean, they're either too low or too high. You get things like this, I don't know, $250,000 within an existing structure and a very small piece of that existing structure.
It's only an
What
office.
are we going to have? An office with, are we going to have more $9,000 doors? Are we going to have more $5,000 ceilings? I mean, it just perpetuates, and the reason they don't want an audit is an audit will give the answers that they don't want to hear. It'll say that what they're doing is they rob Peter to pay Paul. At last night's meeting, they said that they only fund the Blue Cross 2 or 3 months in advance. That's an absolute lie. Because I can show you as the chairman of the Insurance Advisory Committee for 20 years, and now...
Are you still the chairman?
No, I'm no longer, because I'm retired. I am a member, and I'm also the Public Employee Committee designee for the retirees for the negotiations. However, I can go back 30 years and tell you that I can produce articles from 30 years ago where Bob Connors was saying what we had to fund for our total health care costs. They have a contractual obligation to provide 75% to 25%. Every labor agreement in this city.
Let me ask you that. Now, that's by statute?
Yeah, it's by collective bargaining agreement, which is a binding contract with the city.
But is that by state statute? Because some of the councilors mentioned that by state statute, 3 times the amount of...
I think they were, it's not a statutory thing because the contribution is set by the collective bargaining agreement, which is a binding instrument, as you know.
Yeah, so in other words, the employee pays X number of dollars out of
And
his...
there has been court precedents.
Well, let me ask you, you're going good, but
Okay.
just to clear it up. So if when the employee makes the contribution, and let's say in 1 month, there's, we're just for rough figures, there's $10,000 collected. Now, in the account, should they be actually 3 times, or I would say, in other words, should the city be putting in 3 times that amount, so that amount in the account is $40,000?
No, actually, the way it does is when we begin a new fiscal year, the healthcare that we have now runs on the fiscal year also. So let's say, we'll make it nice and easy. Let's say that the healthcare carrier, they do an actuarial study and they say, this is what we feel the healthcare is gonna cost for the city the next year. And they'll say, they'll factor in an amount of inflation for healthcare, the administration fees and everything that goes along with it. And they'll say, okay, we need $40 million. That's what we feel it's gonna cost. So what the city is supposed to do, and what they're supposed to do is, when they get the budget, they have to put $30 million, 3-to-1 ratio in the budget,
Okay.
because they're a self-insured.
That ends up in an account.
Well, it's supposed to. And then what they do is they
But-
take the 10 million that's left, that's the employee share,
Contribution? Yeah.
and they factor that into a premium rate for all the people. And then they say, this is how much you have to pay over the 12-month period to contribute 10 million. And we have a trust fund in addition that we keep extra money in, that we have a carryover to get like the first few months' bills. And what's supposed to happen over the course of the year is we pay as the bills come in. So last night, they said there was $4 million in the trust fund, the employee trust fund, but there was only 134 or 143, and Linda said 143 on the radio, somebody else said 134. But the fact is, they had less than $200,000 in theirs, and if you use those numbers, they should have 12 million.
And so, what is happening with that account?
Well, we don't know.
CJ, I mean, is that money, it's just not being put in there?
Well, it's not that. According to the treasurer, who had an answer for once, he said that because of prior practice, the city only funds
Well,
the employee side.
let me just say this, though. Bob just said it's contractual.
Right.
So prior practice has no relevance.
Exactly.
But he's also, that's not an accurate, it's not a prior practice.
Okay.
Because we could show you on newspaper articles where former city administrators were talking about the total cost. What he said yesterday is they appropriate, every 2 or 3 months, but that's not the way it's done. Fiduciarily by the state, and because of the collective bargaining, they have a fiduciary responsibility to fund 75% of the projected healthcare costs. And what he was saying is they're not. And if that's the case, they're guilty of malfeasance.
And that's exactly what he said to the city council last night. He said that because of prior practice, the city only funds 2 to 3 months worth of bills at a time in the employer's account. And the numbers that he was giving were based upon June 30, 2013 balances. They weren't even current. So we don't know how much money is in that account or any of the accounts because
What they
none of the numbers
stated
are
was
current.
very little. Dan, let's go over to the school department. What's going on over there? You follow the school committee ramifications.
Well, the big thing over there is net school spending, which is the projected proposed city budget, the school department budget, plus the indirect cost that the city provides. Those two figures together equal your net school spending foundation budget.
Let me ask you this. What is the difference between net school spending and gross, the total amount of school spending?
I'm not sure, but one involves the indirect cost on the city side. In other words, there are
Because
two.
they keep using that phrase, net school spending. And what does that exactly mean?
Basically, it's the operating budget for the school department.
All right, so if the school department's budget, they come up with the figures, we say $100 million.
Yep.
Is that considered the figure that they refer to as net school spending?
No, because in addition to that, there's a series of indirect costs which the city of Fall River provides, say health insurance, a number of other things that are carried on the city side.
All right.
So
So in other words, the city picks up the costs of those And that,
The two numbers combined equal the net school spending. And right now, there's a big disagreement as to the indirect cost eligibility of some of the things that can or cannot be applied to that net school spending number.
all right, that clears it up.
It doesn't really, but the bottom line is this. You have to meet 100% of net school spending, or if you have traumatic circumstances, you can fall 5% below. But if you do, in the next fiscal year, that 5% has got to be made up.
So roughly, if net school spending was $100 million, but due to extraordinary expenses, you could actually roughly be behind by $5 million in the budget.
5%.
Yeah, just roughly,
Yeah.
Rough figures.
But here's the kicker. The city council and the school finance committees are saying that they can carry over the amounts of money not in the net school spending, not only to next year, but to
Future years.
future years.
That's incorrect.
Which is incorrect. And as a matter of fact, they received an email from John Sullivan on April 25th saying the law states district must meet their NSS targets. If they don't spend at least 90% of the requirement, the district is penalized and loses state aid. If the shortfall is under 5%, that amount carries forward and is added to the next year's requirement.
And so basically, it comes off the foundation budget the next year.
Exactly.
I'm not in the last 4 years or so, but going back prior to other administrations, there's been years where we've missed net school spending very frequently. The reason, but they've always made it up, because if not, they'll just take it off the Chapter 70 appropriation. So it's like a direct loan payment.
Well,
And the worst part about it is, this document that I have here is communications between the school superintendent, members of the school committee, finance people, the city finance committee, and they're showing that they don't know what they're doing. They're asking, does this qualify to meet net school spending or NSS funds? And they're being told by the state, no, it doesn't. So they're gonna keep going back to the budget.
The first time that I heard it come out, that somebody on the city side believed that the net school spending makeup could travel 2 fiscal years, was at that joint meeting of the school committee and the city council. And Ed I. Capone, the finance consultant, okay, he's the one that, it was his belief, and he gave testimony saying that he believed it could go 2 years.
Well, maybe we should file a lawsuit against him and get some of our money back.
Well,
Because right now, with the fiscal year 24
is he still on the job?
Well, he was at that joint meeting about a month ago.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know.
never leave.
So in other words, there's another financial person too.
Right.
And the school has their own too.
Right, and they have their own budgets.
And no one can, it doesn't seem like they can figure out what is really going on. That's
This year
disturbing.
alone- Right, this year alone, the school department is $2,815,510 short of net school spending.
That's a transportation,
Right,
right?
and that's because of the transportation issue. Next year, there will be $5,637,595 short of net school spending.
10 elementary, I think.
So-
9 or 10 elementary, 3 or 4
When you're
middle.
looking at that,
About
the
14,
city this year has $120 million
roughly.
in the budget for this year for the school department. That's only 97.7% of net school spending. Next year, they have 124 million, and that's 95.7% of net school spending. Guess what? We're not meeting it.
So what is the penalty for not meeting it?
If we don't meet it,
You have to make it up the next fiscal year.
and if you don't make it up the next fiscal year, they take it out of your Chapter 70 money, which means before the city even sees a dime of their Chapter 70 money, they're gonna lose everything they didn't spend.
That'll
Mu-
get deducted.
Much like the charter school expense.
Right.
Comes right off the top.
Okay, we have, there's still the perennial problem of high unemployment. Jobs in Fall River are not being created as we might say the people need the work. Is that because of the high unemployment? Is that because of employers leaving the city or cutting back? Basically,
It's two things. The first thing is we have employers who are leaving the city. We have businesses that are leaving the city in droves because taxes and fees are starting to go through the roof. The city is trying to meet its budgetary needs on the backs of the taxpayer, and you can't do that, okay? Secondly, how can you attract a business to Fall River, okay, in any way, because you have nothing to offer them? You have to offer them something. You have to say to them, this is what we got to give you, okay? We can't say we've got safety services to give them because those are up in the air. We're putting 22 more firefighters on, but we don't know where we're getting the money, okay? We're gonna start charging exorbitant amount for trash removal. We are gonna start charging more water fees, more taxes. And I was glad to see last night that the city council finally told Terry Sullivan to stick it, and they didn't increase his water fees. And he threatened a layoff.
The sewer fees were also denied.
Right.
The other problem we have is, and it could be because it's a catch-22. We can't attract, the only businesses we attract are the businesses that are looking for low-wage workers, unskilled workers, and a TIF agreement. And once the TIF's gone, they leave. And what our result is that we can't attract restaurants and that kind of economy store that gets at retails and things because we don't have people with money. We have nobody, we have one of the lowest per capita incomes, the second lowest in the state. And how is a business going to come here when we have nobody to buy anything?
you hit a good point there, because on the radio the other day I heard someone say that thank God for Walmart and thank God for Sam's Club. I mean, like, I didn't know what really they were trying to say. Those are not high-paying jobs.
It's not only that. That came from the nonsensical portion of the local radio station, and they said that they were thanking the person of the development, the owner of the development. And the problem is this: you go into the Walmart and you do actual price comparison, and it's actually at the top end of Walmart prices. You go into the Sam's Club, it's the same thing, to the point that I have provided both stores on a regular basis all the local market prices, including the new regular prices for Shaw's and Stop and Shop, like $2.99 for hamburger, $2.99 for pork chops, 39 cents for bananas, things like that. Do you know they've been getting those on a regular basis for months now, and they have not adjusted the price? And here's what I was told: welfare, Fall River is a welfare city, and they can afford it.
Oh boy.
And not only that, when you look at Walmart and stores like this, look at the demographic they deal with. That Walmart is a low-budget, cheap, Chinese, Vietnamese-made everything, and they sell junk, basically. They sell junk. So you don't see Fall River attracting the Nordstroms and
Market Basket
and the real high-end stores. And that's one of the reasons people go, we've got to market Fall River. How are you going to market Fall River when we have nobody that can buy anything and nobody can pay good prices? If you look at places like the thing I said before the council a month or two ago about comparing Newton with Fall River, their average income's family income's $113,000. Ours is $34,000. So you look at Newton, which it has 2,000 less people than we do. They have 14,000 businesses in Newton. We have 4,000 in Fall River. Why is that? Guess what? Those people have money, and businesses go where people have money. And the businesses that come to Fall River, a dollar store, Pizza Hut, and Walmart.
McDonald's. Subway.
That's why you can go to a small town like Taunton or Seekonk and have twice the selection of restaurants that you do in a city that's 10 times their size.
And the other problem we have in Fall River too is, how can you market a city which really has not done a true master plan? The master plans they always talk about are a joke. You look at the master plan that Boston did, they revamped the entire city. We have no area to actually build a large store. We really don't. We don't have an area to put in a large store or put in a you know, a stop in, another market basket or supermarket or anything else.
Okay, I want to conclude. We got the dump closing in October. It looks like things will be handled differently. Any ideas of how the trash is going to be picked up?
Well, they said no privatization, but they haven't really given the second part of the plan yet. So I guess we'll have to wait till June 1st to see how that's budgeted.
The rumor is pay as you throw. That's the rumor out there.
$2 to $2.50 a bag.
I'll go on record, I don't support pay-as-you-throw. The administration over the last 2 election cycles said he didn't support
But he
pay-as-you-throw.
also said it's not off the table.
Correct.
What's going to happen to the local DPW workers? Are they
That's how he's going to keep them working, because
gonna pay
they're,
as you throw?
yeah.
That's
So-
his excuse anyway. That's his excuse. In order to keep DPW, we have to have pay as you throw. And, you know, but this, again, is a situation where.
So they'll collect it and
we're
bring it
being-
to
yeah.
maybe CMAS or something like that?
Well, and the other thing is they want a bond for a transfer station. And they think that that bonding is okay, because that should generate some income for them as well.
A local transfer
Right,
station?
at the current city garage yard.
And how much would that cost, a transfer station?
Who knows?
We haven't seen the estimates yet.
It's not a transfer station, it's not a recycling station.
No, it's gonna be a transfer station. The trash goes there, and then from there it gets trucked to a dump.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it make sense just to drive it to the dump to begin with? Why have a transfer station?
Because it saves everyone else time and damage on their trucks, and the city collects a tipping fee for it, or some type of fee for it.
For a transfer station?
Right.
Yeah, but it's their own trash. They're not gonna
In
charge.
this case, it's our trash, but in the case of maybe from Somerset or other.
Oh, it's gonna
other
be
places,
privately run.
It's gonna be run by the city.
Well, I mean, they were, a tipping fee, they weren't not gonna charge their own government the fee. I mean, if they own a transfer station, I'm gonna charge.
But by own it, they won't have to pay that fee to another transfer
Oh,
station.
yeah, I can see that. All right. Well, gentlemen, covered some of the hot topics of last couple of weeks. Any predictions quickly, because I want to make an announcement. CJ,
I think you're gonna see some federal agents running around the buildings pretty soon.
you think people are going to be leaving in shackles?
Oh, yeah. you
Bob?
know,
I think it may be do not pass go directly to jail.
Dan?
I think the city budget is going to have a tough time being passed.
Oh, yeah. it's
You
gonna be
think there's
difficult.
been some pilfering and embezzlement, or it's just the books are in shambles, bad shape?
Well, we'll see what's released on June 1st.
Okay.
Right now, it's all speculation.
All right, I want to thank everybody out there, first of all, for watching, and I want to thank my panelists, CJ, Bob, and Dan. The announcement again is the last one for this cycle regarding the Friends of Cook Pond dinner dance. That's going to be held this Saturday night at the VFW on Shove Street in Tiverton. Doors will open around 6 o'clock. We expect to have a little brief military ceremony around 6:30 or so, and thereafter by 7 will be the food will be out there for people to take what they want. Pretty much, it's basically all you can eat after we go through the people go through the course the first time, and then after. We're going to have dancing, so it's going to be a big night. Friends of Cook Pond, hope to see you there. Tickets are still available. Let me know or someone on the committee, and I'll see you next time.